everyone. Greetings of the day. Welcome back to Law Friend. And today we have with us someone who does not read an introduction. Search NLSAT any interview on the entirety of the internet. One of the most searched of is of Aparajitha, an alumnus of one of the most prestigious institutions, IITs, to a current student of one of the much more prestigious institutions, NLSIU. Aparajitha has been with us throughout her previous year's preparation for NLSAT 2025, wherein she secured a staggering rank of All India 10. A lot of information about her, a lot of rhymes I can go on, but I guess there's a completely separate video for that. In this video is the starting of our NLSAT 2026 countdown series, and in this video, and like a series of batch of videos till the actual NLSAT exam in 26th of April, we'll be producing and discussing on what should be your preparation for the last leap. This is an Ask Me Anything session with Aparajitha, wherein we have curated 10 very important questions from the students of our batch. Aparajitha will be answering those. And yes, in the very end, we have a very important announcement and a surprise for the students of our batch. That aside, hey Aparajitha, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So, how's everything at NLS? How's everything working there?
It's great. I'm in the first year. 2 trimesters are over. The third trimester is going to begin this Monday. So I'm excited. Yeah.
One question when after a lot of students from our batch saw your interview video, what is more hectic per se? Your life at IIT or life at NLS?
Uh, Both, I guess, but in different ways. IIT had a semester system, so
Hmm.
even though we had a lot of readings and everything, it was a little spread out. But NLS has a trimester system, so we'll be covering everything in 3 months.
Oh.
So, and we are the 3 year LLB course, right?
Hmm.
So things are a bit more hectic.
Ha,
Yeah.
great. And how is the system of competitions therein? Because I heard NLS has one of the most famous moots and ADR competition. So do you see them happening?
Yes.
What's the culture in college around that?
It is quite competitive.
Hmm.
We do have a lot of moods. In fact, I myself participated for the first time in the university runs, and I secured a good rank, which helped me also, like get an international mood.
Oh.
So, yeah, it is, and also we do have this concept of continuous evaluation.
Hmm.
So, apart from your end-term examinations, there'll be different evaluations happening throughout the trimester, and there'll be moods happening for subjects as well,
Hmm.
papers to submitted, small group discussions, various things, and all are graded. So,
So yes, thanks a lot for that. That would have
yeah,
given a very good picture of how life at NLS is functioning for all the aspirants of this year. So yes, with that said, let's move on to the questions. Perfect.
yeah.
Yes. The first query we have herein is I started serious preparation recently and feel short on time, especially for legal answer writing. How do I bridge preparation gaps quickly without burning out or on losing confidence? If I may move herein.
Yeah. So all the answers are from my personal experience, and with respect to this question, I myself prepared for around 2 months only. Since I just got out of the UPSC cycle, I didn't have much time. Uh, so 2 months is what I had, and so my answer comes from this experience that you don't need a lot of time to prepare for this exam. All you need is to structure the preparation in such a way that it's targeted and not all over the place, right? So the starting point is to analyze the previous year questions. So that will give you a good understanding of what is being asked, and you will know the demand and you can meet that demand with your preparation. So you know what exactly to study, right?
Got it.
So having said that, for the structure of the exam. So there are two parts, part A and B, and part A is for 75 marks. There will be 8 passages, and most of it will be comprehension based questions, but you will also have some GK and current affairs mixed with it.
Hmm.
So for the comprehension questions, the passages will be quite lengthy. So you will have to be able to read them with speed and accuracy because there is negative marks also. So you should be able to comprehend what is the major premise, what are the arguments, what is inference and conclusion and all of that. I'll address about it in the upcoming questions. And for the current affairs part, analyze the previous year questions again so you can find some recurring themes. For instance, about sports, Olympics, some key appointments, a lot of questions on the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, its composition, convening,
Hmm.
that. And with respect to films, major awards like Oscars and that, and also some international groupings. We in fact had a few questions on USA's President Trump's
Hmm.
executive order. So, so you'll know what kind of questions are being asked, so you can prepare accordingly. And for part B, subjective type is again 75 marks. You get 5 case studies and 1 essay.
Hmm.
So this part is about how coherent your answer is in terms of how you're structuring it, how sharp your arguments are, because you don't have to write a lot. There is a limited space given in the answer sheet for each case study. When I wrote, it was 1.5 pages or sites. So you should be able to give the answer within that small space, and essay, of course. So keep practice writing answers here and get it evaluated, and that's how you can develop the getting the right structure and the coherence.
Great.
So
That was an amazing and a very comprehensive answer. I guess all the queries and the related queries would be solved. One thing that I get this asked in consonance with this is, with respect to you said current affairs and have a structured list, a lot of people ask me that what should be the source of these current affairs, and should newspapers, a daily reading of newspapers should be the major source of it. And again, it comes with the double-edged sword that it takes up a lot of time and it's not that efficacious. What is your take on the same?
see, it depends on uh, your position before the exam. If you are someone who has a regular habit of reading newspaper, well and good. Okay, you don't have to prepare notes from the newspapers because that will become very bulky and like and hectic and time, very time consuming, because I've done that for UPSC and I know from experience that don't do that. Okay, just read the newspapers and like get to know things. But having said that, if you're someone who's not in the habit of reading newspapers, then just pick up compilations from institutes like Lofren and just revise them thoroughly, and don't go more than like 1 or 2 sources. Just stick to limit the number of sources and revise it thoroughly. Then anything asked in and around a current affairs from those compilations, you should be able to answer.
Very greatly said. And on a lighter note, since we're discussing about newspapers, there was one instance in the class when this student was telling me कि when I use highlighters on newspapers, the paper gets very wet and I'm unable to read it. Should I use pencil?
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, why are you highlighting the newspaper? But again, that was a good, yeah, funny instance. Moving on,
Yeah.
moving on to the next question. So the next question, and I read, I struggle to write answers in the format expected in an LSAT Part B. What exactly distinguishes a high scoring legal answer from an average one, and how should I structure my responses under time pressure? Moving on to.
Okay. So, like I mentioned in the starting, Part B answers, especially case studies, it's all about how well you structure your answer and how well you use the given facts and present your arguments. Okay, so IRAC is a common format which we use in on any kind of legal answers. So I'll explain what is IRAC and how we can use that. So before I do that, one thing is NLS is clearly said no prior legal knowledge is required. What they mean by that is that you don't have to study like acts or like sections or laws or constitutions and like different articles No, not that kind of legal knowledge. But some kind of conceptual knowledge will always come in hand. Like it will be very helpful. I have some sample answers in the later questions. I can show you how that works. It's not a big deal. It's very commonsensical, but put in a legal language. Right? Okay. So the first one, once you read the case, you need to pick up immediately what is the major issue here. What's the issue? Like you should be able to tell in one line what is the issue here. Start with that. Start with that. The issue in the given case is so and so. Okay. Once you, this is the starting point. Once you're able to identify this issue, you should be able to form your stance depending on the rule that is given in the case study. For instance, it can be in the country of A and B, there is a policy that so and so. So that is the rule, right? And there will be a case framed around that policy. Now you should frame your stance. So the issue will be whether, let's say X, whether X is liable for this particular act. The answer will be yes or no, right? Based on the rule. So once you form your stance, then goes to the major part, which is the application. This is where you will say the case in favor of X, right? And you present your arguments. When you do that, make sure you integrate the given facts in the case. It's very important you do that. And the facts will be like spread throughout the given case. It will from top to bottom, there will be some point or the other which you will have to use. So you should be sharp enough to pick those points and write it in a coherent manner. Once you do this, you have to give a counter argument, that is case against X. So this will be the lacuna in your arguments, right? There will be something which can go against your argument. You need to address that as well, and conclude by saying that in spite of this counter argument, my stance still holds because of this, and end with therefore, the way forward, the course of action is, whatever it is according to the rule. So this is the structure, the overall structure. But how you are going to present the structure is something personal to you, which you will develop as you keep on writing. Yes, this is like what is expected out of you, but how you're presenting this, how you're structuring the whole paper in terms of paragraphs, subheadings, and all of that is, it's flexible. You can do it as per your wish. Yeah.
Very greatly said, very structured. Really liked it. Then there are a few questions that after learning about this structure, a lot of people have when they go on immediately to start writing. I guess they are covered immediately after this only. Okay. Ah, I try to apply IRAC, but my answers end up repeating the facts given in the question. How do I apply IRAC analytically rather than descriptively? And I guess we have a
Okay.
practice question for this as well.
Yeah. So IRAC, the A, which is the analysis, is what the question is asking about. You will have to use the facts because that's what we have, right, to work with. So you will, no matter what, you will end up using the facts. But the the trick here is how you're doing that, right? So the question is, what is the facts saying, right? For instance, let's take this particular question. If you can read this, so this is about urban cart. Renu ordered an expensive glass vase from urban cart, and the page showed 100% breakage protection guarantee and delivery within 3 days, and she paid using her credit card. When the package arrived on the fifth day, it was broken, it was shattered. She immediately contacted the customer care and showed the photographs, but the company refused to replace or refund it, stating that the courier had marked the package as delivered in good condition. The delay was due to unforeseen weather conditions. She argued that she acted in good faith, the product arrived late and damaged, and the company's guarantee should cover her loss. but urban cart maintains that it fulfilled its part of the package and cannot be held liable once the item is marked delivered. Should urban cart be held responsible for Renu's loss? This question is pretty straightforward because the issue is framed in terms of the question in the end, the last line. It won't be as straightforward as this all the time. So this is how you should frame the issue. So the next slide is what I wrote before the few days before it was one of the practice questions which I did. The thing is, I attempted this question in 7 minutes. Okay. Because in the exam, 10 minutes is what you have for writing the answer. But the question won't be as short as this, the case. Some of the case can be very lengthy and a lot of time will go in reading it and figuring out the issue, all the facts. Some questions can be short, but then you need to be prepared for all the lengthy questions as well. Okay, so this is how the sample paper had the spaces, boxes, 1.5 pages, sample paper which I picked from NLS website. So I started with identifying the issue and stance. So the case deals with the question whether urban cart fulfill its end of the bargain. Just same question but phrased a little differently, right? And I argue that urban cart failed to do so and hence must be held responsible. At the beginning itself, I'm telling what my answer is going to be, so that they don't have to find out what I'm actually telling in the answer. So the examiner, their burden is reduced. They know, they can predict what my answer is going to be, right? So the next is the case against urban cart, right? So the first is the issue, the I part. Okay. Now the rule is the 100% guarantee and all of that. So it will come in this section. So the primary responsibility of urban cart is to deliver the VAS in good time condition, right? That's the rule, right? Now, did they do that? Is the analysis. However, it failed to do this because I'm giving the reasons, right? So my argument is it failed to do so. The reasons is picked from the facts only. You don't have to go anywhere out, right? So not only did the product arrive 2 days later than the set date, it was also damaged. And try to mix all the facts together and build a narrative. Moreover, immediately contacted the company, providing all the photographic evidences. It violated the 100% breakage protection guarantee. And so, in a very short 2 paragraphs, you present your case. Then, just a few lines of what could go against our arguments is that the 2-day delay is unforeseen, weather conditions were there, right? And but Renu accepted this in good faith. So the counter argument is that this delay is due to unforeseen weather conditions, right? Now you're saying, in spite of this, my stance still holds because Renu accepted this in good faith. So what should be the final decision here? What's the conclusion here? Providing undamaged product or providing breakage guarantee is the duty of urban cart. Hence, it must compensate Renu monetarily or provide a replacement. This is taking into accountance of the acceptance of late delivery, right? So this is one way of presenting. You can even argue for urban cart and just follow the same structure. There is no one side here. This is the side which I picked. But you can also side with urban cart and frame a similar answer, right? So that's the conclusion. And our way forward is how urban cart should act now, in terms of providing a replacement or so what is a legal concept which I used here? It's nothing more like fancy here. It's just usual commonsensical thing, duty to provide undamaged product, promise kept, right? Good faith. All of these are concepts which we will study in detail in say thoughts or something like that sort. But here in a very basic way. So these terms, when we use it, it will just enhance the answer. Uh,
That's really great. The structure that you proposed in the previous answer and the answer you have written poetically falls into that. And one more observation I have in this answer, it is a very well written answer, and this, as you mentioned, has a very good use of legal words, legal terms, and generally emanating from the torts law. But as I also check copies, I see a lot of times people, when in the initial stages of the preparation, tend to jargonize the Part B answers with a lot of legal terms. How does that work out before an examiner? Does it help? Does it not?
we should realize that the people who correct us are like professors,
Hmm.
right, of law.
Hmm.
So no matter how big jargons we use, what they are looking for is the substance.
Hmm.
They'll pierce through the jargon to look for the argument and the structure and everything. See, if that is there, then you can use your jargons. That's fine. But without that, just jargons won't help us. So,
Great, great. Very well said. Done then. Moving to the next question. How many arguments should I ideally present in my Part B legal? Sorry. Ideally present in my Part B legal answer. If I can identify only one strong argument, how do I expand it into a complete and convincing response?
okay. So, to answer this, there's another sample question. I'll take you through this and then I'll answer the question. So, this is in Republic of Samandita. There is an act, Right to Peaceful Assembly Act, which guarantees all citizens the right to gather in public spaces for non-violent protest, provided that prior permission is obtained from local authorities. However, the Act also states that no protest shall be permitted within 500 meters of any educational institutions, right, to schools and all that, to avoid disruption. Ria is an education activist who organized a peaceful protest outside a government office to demand better school facilities. Ironically, it took place 400 meters from a public school during school hours. Ria had obtained prior police permission, but the officer who granted permission failed to check the proximity to the school. During the protest, there was no noise, damage, or disturbance. However, this 500-meter rule was violated, and so a parent filed a complaint. Okay? Ria now faces action for violating the act. She claims she did everything lawfully and peacefully. Should Ria be penalized under the act?
Great
Okay.
question.
A lot of things going on in this question. There is an act which has a rule clearly mentioned to protect students from protest and the noise. But Ria is actually an educationist. She is protesting for education and related things, but then she is doing it in 400 meters from a public school. But she did get a permission, and the police failed to check. So a lot of things are happening. How will we frame the answer? Okay.
Done.
Can you just show the answer?
Done. A minor addition from my part. Even there was no noise or damage, so the spirit of the
Yeah.
is intact.
Yes. But a parent filed a complaint. So what do we do here? Right? So this is what I answered. And remember, you should be able to do this in 7 minutes. Right? So that's the time which I set for myself because, like I said before, cases can be lengthy sometimes. Okay, issue and stance. Same structure I've applied here. Ria had clearly violated the 500 meters rule of the Right to Peaceful Assembly Act. There's no doubt here. However, the officer has also been negligent in granting permission, right? So this part about negligence is again from torts, okay? The case against Ria. Being an education activist, Ria should have been mindful of the location of the school and the protest area. Though the protest was without noise, damage, or disturbance, it violated the provisions of the Act. And it did attract the complaint of a parent. Okay? So the arguments here is, to answer the main question, the major argument here is Ria violated the Act. But then there are some few sub-arguments also here. One is that she is an education activist, so she should be mindful. Number two is that though she protested without noise and all that, she violated the act in terms of the black letter of the law. And the consequence of it is that one of the parents filed a complaint. Okay. Now the counter argument. The case in favor of Ria. She obtained a lawful permit, but the officer failed to perform his duty of thorough checking before granting the permit. Also, Ria's intention of protest was to demand better school facilities. As an education activist, she did not intend to harm the students' interests. Right? Another legal concept here, apart from the duty to check the permits and all of that, here we have intention. The intention is very important. Another important legal concept, something which I picked from mens rea but applied it differently here. Okay, so Ria's intention of protest was to demand better school facilities. So we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that she did not have any, maleficent intention of something. Now the decision, what can we do about this? Considering the material facts is again a term which we use frequently. Okay, she can be penalized for falling short of 100 meters radius, but her penalty should be minimal as the officer is also at fault for providing the permit and also for the other reasons. So this is how I presented the case. Now once again, you can give completely different arguments siding with Ria, but provided you are able to substantiate it.
Great.
So, yeah.
Greatly said. Greatly said. I guess that gives the very essential clarity that was needed for that question. And yes, let's now move on to the next one. Yes. Current affairs questions sometimes include statistic or historical facts rather than purely contemporary issues. How should I prepare CA effectively, and what balance should I maintain between static GK and recent developments? First of all, because this question comes with a fact in itself, what is the veracity of the same? And if it is true, then how should you prepare?
Okay, so most of the questions, when they mean static GK, it's always related to something happening in the current affairs. Even if it sounds very static, it's linked to a current event. Okay, so when you're preparing for current affairs, like I mentioned before, don't just read the news. Don't use highlighters on newspapers. Uh, be more strategic about this because you can just waste a lot of time here. Also, because compared to the comprehension questions, which is a little more than the current affairs question, so you have to make sure that you should balance the amount of work input compared to the output, right? So study team wise, use the previous year questions and make themes like I mentioned before, climate related, judiciary, movies and sports, and compile materials around those themes. Okay, and not isolated headlines. Okay, so this way you can save a lot of time and you will also be targeted in your preparation. And also, yeah, current affairs versus static GK. Most of the questions are related to current affairs. Okay. Static GK, for instance, there was a question on how many female members are there in Supreme Court judiciary. I think that was a question, right? That might sound very static GK, like composition of Supreme Court, but it is linked to current affairs, right? Current events. So, because that topic about gender balance in judiciary keeps recurring in newspapers, and it is an important issue. And so, link your static with the current affairs. Okay, when you're reading something about anything that which looks like static, link it with about the organization with the theme overall.
Got it.
Okay, and prioritize repeated areas, frequently asked questions. Same point, same thing about the themes. Repeated areas are like low hanging fruits. It will help you fetch more marks with limited preparation time. And yeah, practice previous year questions and mock tests. The more number of mocks you solve, the more you will get practice in terms of elimination techniques, how to find the answers, and a lot of things happen when you practice mocks. Rather, and also sometimes you just forget reading current affairs like like one book. You just keep on reading, you will forget what you're reading. But if you test it with your mocks or something, then it's the recollection is there and you will remember it better. So that's my take on current affairs and static.
Great, great, great. I now even I got a hold because as you mentioned, what is the composition? That question. As far as I remember, that was I think in connection to the Bela Trivedi, the entire
Yeah, yeah,
very very great. So that is how a current affair thing is connected to a static GK thing. Great,
yeah.
very well said. Moving on to the next question. Which sources should I rely on for GK and current affairs preparation, and how many months of coverage should I prioritize? 6, 8, 10, or 12?
Okay.
Yep.
So, like I mentioned before, if you are someone who reads newspaper regularly, it's well and good.
Hmm.
But when it comes to preparation as such, rely only on very limited sources. I just picked one source and just studied that. Maximum one or two sources.
Hmm.
And some of you asked me in DMs about UPSC materials, some of the monthly compilations
Hmm.
for UPSC. So that is a tricky source. Uh, you can use it only if you know to differentiate between what's needed and not, because it's very vast.
Hmm.
Okay, you don't have to study all of that. Like for one polity alone, it will run to 100 plus pages. Okay, you don't have to study all of that. And plus, UPSC materials won't cover about Oscars and like a lot of sports related news.
Hmm.
Lately, they have, because they started asking about chess, Olympiad, and all that. But usually, UPSC materials don't have a lot on movies and sports, appointments, and similar such questions which NLSAT asks. So you should be able to identify the difference. And UPSC materials are a great source to know what is happening, like to know the array of news, but it's in depth and you don't have to do like that much of preparation really. And also revision. Limit your sources and revise them thoroughly. That it should be in your fingertips. You, you know the worst feeling is when you've studied something and forgetting it on the day of exam, right? So to avoid that, revise, and don't accumulate a lot of materials. You won't remember it, and in the time pressure, you will like it's very difficult. So just keep revising. Okay, in terms of how many months of current affairs, ideally 8 to 12 months. 12 months is the standard. If you're short on time, 8 months, but focus on the last 6 months, right? If you analyze the previous year questions, a lot of questions are on March, April, even like Feb, before the exam, just few before the exam, the latest developments. Okay, focus on that.
Hmm. Great, great, great. Really well said. And on that part of accumulation of materials, since I am also sneakily into the student discussion group, I keep seeing there people use these materials as trade cards. Oh, I study from this compilation. Oh, I study from an even better compilation. And they just hoard them instead of studying them. So, yes,
it,
very.
it creates a FOMO. I know. I've been there. Uh, but it's a trap. You should be very careful and like beware of it because it won't help you on the day of exam.
Hmm.
You will just be like, if I just pick up one more compilation, I might like study better. It doesn't happen. So
Great, great. Really, very relatable that was. Then, question 7. I struggle to efficiently handle multiple passages while identifying assumptions, inferences, author's tone, and strengthening weakening logic questions. What specific skills should I train to improve RC accuracy and speed?
okay. So this is with regards to the passages, part A passages, comprehension. Passages can be quite lengthy if you've seen the previous year questions. It will go on for like 1.5 pages with a lot of information. Okay. So this is where something which I picked up is the argument mapping, which is to find out what's the central thesis, what is the author actually saying. The answer to this will just be 1 or 2 lines. The entire 3-4 paragraphs will just be to substantiate the central thesis. Okay. So identify, just read it once, and you should be able to pick up what's the exact core argument. The next is what are the supporting reasons. So most of it will just be reasons to support this argument. Okay. Is there a counter view? So they will address something which is opposite the counter view. What is the author saying there? You should be able to differentiate that from the central thesis, because some of the options will try to trick you there, giving the counter view, but you should know author is not saying that. The author is saying the opposite. Okay? And then finally, what's the conclusion? Now, there's a question about tone. So the tone can be suggestive, like they'll give a suggestion that, if, for instance, if companies prioritize environmentally, like, green initiatives, it will be better for their productivity, something of that sort. That's a suggestion. Okay. Descriptive is if they're describing a phenomenon or something that's happening. For instance, climate change is happening. We are experiencing different temperatures, seasonal changes, and all of this is a descriptive type of passage. Then futuristic, something that talks about what could be better if we implement this, right? For instance, AI and those kind of like technology based passages will be like futuristic. Okay. So once you identify the tone, where will this help is the question will be, is the author saying this? Okay. And the options will be something around this. Okay. Is it a suggestive? The author is saying it. Descriptive, no, the author is just describing it. He is not saying that you should do it. He's just describing it. Okay. If it's futuristic, the author is saying, if we implement this, this could happen. Something of that sort. So it will come very handy when there are tricky statements. Like you will be able to eliminate 3 and you'll be like stuck with A or B, something of that sort. So how do we find the right answer? Is to understand the tone and understand what's in the mind of the author. So yeah.
Greatly said, greatly said. Even an extension question to this is, I guess the answer to this would be simple, but since a lot of students ask me to ask this to you, there is this mental fatigue that people have after completing part A. How do you pick yourself up after that fatigue and plunge straight into part B?
Yeah. Part A and Part B require slightly different mindset. Part A is mentally draining in terms of reading a lot. The passages are very lengthy and considering the time. Uh, so once you finish Part A, just pause for a second and now think of the practices that you did before. Like in my mind, before I went for the exam, the structure of the answer was like it's there. It was there in my mind. I knew that no matter what case is coming, I'm going to just stick to the structure, right? That will help you. That will solve a lot of like mental fatigue of how am I going to write, what am I going to write. All these questions will be solved there. So it's like an assurance to yourself, like no matter what case comes, just stick to the structure. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, there's. Okay, I had to come to this too, I guess. Sorry. This is in. This is an extension to the question 7. I guess I missed this.
Yeah, okay. So I think the question was on assumption in inference and all of that. I wanted to give you a proper passage, but I don't think we can do it here because passages are very lengthy. So I just picked up a very short passage here. Here it just says remote work increases employee productivity because it reduces commute time and allows flexible scheduling. Studies show that employees working remotely report higher job satisfaction. Therefore, companies should adopt remote work policies permanently. Okay, so this is where we pick up the core argument and the premise. The core argument is that the company should adopt remote work permanently, which is the conclusion here. But how are they arriving at this point? What are the reasons which they are giving? Are the premises? Because it reduces commute time, it allows flexibility, and increases satisfaction. Okay. So the question asked was what? How do we find out what's the assumption and what's the inference? The assumption here is how did they come to this conclusion? What is the gap between the premise and the conclusion? Right? Higher productivity and job satisfaction are sufficient reasons for companies to adopt remote work. That's the underlying assumption here, right? So the premises are giving reasons for why they should adopt a remote work, and the conclusion is that they should adopt it. Now, what's the point which bridges both? It's the assumption that that premise will lead to this conclusion, right? That productivity and job satisfaction are enough reasons for companies to adopt remote work. Now, what's the inference? Inference is what can be logically drawn from the given premise and conclusion. That remote work is likely more beneficial for employees than traditional office-based work. Traditional office-based work is not mentioned in the passage directly, right? They are mentioned talking about remote work. But what are we inferring from here? Why are they talking about remote work? Because they are trying to differentiate it from the traditional office-based work. So that's an inference which we are getting from the passage. So the purpose of this passage was to explain this.
Nah, that was a really great explanation, and I'm going to copy that analogy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Moving on to question number 8. In many MCQs, multiple options appear logically similar but are phrased differently. How do I systematically eliminate close options and select the most accurate answer?
Okay. So there are negative marks for picking the wrong answer as well as for leaving the question unanswered. So you have to pick something, right? And the goal is to pick the right option. So here, with regards to comprehension questions, even I have experienced this, is we will arrive at two options that seem very similar and correct, but there will be something different about them because one is right and one is wrong, right? Now we have to figure out. So it's like doing a little detective work here. How to figure out what's the right answer. Now there are few ways to do this. One first thing you should do is to go back to the exact line in the passage. Just go back and see. Obviously, there'll be something which is right about the correct option, and whatever seems to be the best fit. If you're still not able to make a decision, then there are some clues which we can pick from the passages. Usually, if a statement has strong language with blanket statements like for instance, all offices should be remote work based, or always employees should work remotely, or they must. So these are like very strong language blanket statements which usually authors don't use. Okay, unless the passage itself is structured in that way, most of the statements will have like some, may, often, moderate language like this. So if the statement has something very strong which is not found in the main passage, then that is wrong. Okay, or at least a higher chance of being wrong than a moderate language based statement. Then the third way to find is if they are introducing new variables that doesn't fit within the passage. Now you should be very careful here. For instance, in the previous example that we saw, traditional office-based work is a term which we did not find in the passage. But the question is it a new variable? Right? It might seem new, but it's actually not, because we are trying to differentiate traditional office work from remote work. So it's linked to the inference. But there will be new variables like something completely different, like international work or something, or like working using video conferences or something like that. Something. These are new variables that doesn't gel well with the main passage. Pick those terms from the list of options. Or if the statement is excessively narrow, like for instance in the remote work thing, if the statement is that um, like all educational institutions only should have uh, remote classroom based thing, something of that sort. It's very narrow, focusing on just one particular area, or it's very vague. The companies do whatever they want. They can do remote, they can do whatever, something very vague, right? Author is not saying that. If you read the passage carefully, the author is concluding by saying that remote work should be, used, should be given preference over traditional work, because they have clearly given three reasons why, right? So these are the ways in which you can identify the right option. And lastly, if think of it, if the statement is true, will it fit within the given passage? Will the author actually say this? Right? Like, go into the mind of the author. You have read, you have spent a lot of precious minutes reading the passage. You will know the mind of the author. Now think, do you think the author will actually say this? If that will actually help you in figuring out the right option. So,
Very greatly said. And this actually connects with your previous proposition that try to understand the tone of the author, what tone the author is speaking in.
yeah.
Great. Then moving on to the next question now, the penultimate one. How should I allocate time between part A and part B during the exam, and decision making strategy, and what decision making strategy helps minimize negative marking without becoming overtly cautious?
Okay. So this is what I followed. But again, time management is something very personal to each of you. You can structure it accordingly. But what I followed is that we have 150 minutes, 2.5 hours to finish the paper. Since I was good with comprehension based questions, I gave myself 60 minutes to finish part A. It's very strict time. It's very difficult also, because there are 75 questions, and doing that within 60 minutes after reading the passage is quite difficult. So the reason for giving this is so that in the last 40 minutes I have some buffer time. Okay. So 60 minutes for part A, and then I took 10 minutes for each case studies. So 50 minutes went in that. And the last 40 minutes I gave for essay plus buffer time. So the reason for buffer time is that it is quite obvious that you can't finish part A in 60 minutes. There will be like some 3 or 4 questions left, or some tricky questions like is it A or B type of questions where you haven't made a decision will be left. So don't waste time in making a decision there. Just finish your part B and then use the buffer time to make the decision regarding those 2-3 tricky questions, because towards the end your mind will be like, okay, I have to mark something now, right? So finish the essay and then use the buffer time to finish off all those questions on from part A which you have not marked. So this is what I did. Again, so this is something which you can get once you start practicing full mocks, the full paper, full 2.5 hours. Then you will get a better idea of how you personally can schedule your time. As far as negative marks are concerned, avoid blind guessing, because like I said before, you have to mark an answer because unanswered questions also have a negative marks. So make sure that you make educated guesses. For instance, there was a question on a passage about uh, economic Nobel laureates on a book called Chomp or something about food and all. It was a previous year question. There were four options, and one of the options was Venkatraman Ramakrishna. Okay, I knew that he was a Nobel laureate, but not for economics. I think he was for chemistry, if I'm not wrong. I eliminated that option. That left me with three options, and all three were economists. So I did not know the answer for that. So such questions, you either know or you don't know the answer. That's the factual question. Who's the author of that question? Uh, I really did not know the answer, so I just marked an educated guess, and it turned out to be right because I was lucky there. So that way I'm saying avoid blind guessing. So here I made a guess out of like elimination, eliminating, okay, the book was on Indian cuisine. One of the authors was not Indian, so I eliminated that option. And I had like two options left, and I made one choice, which again. So a lot of lateral knowledge works here. So that's how you make educated guesses, and check if elimination works. And yeah, this is one of the tricky questions. Like you either know who's the author or you don't know. So yeah, that's part of a negative marks.
Great, great, perfect. Then the last question of the session. I have written very few essays and struggle with difficult comprehensions. How do I rapidly how do I rapidly improve essay quality, analytical depth, and comprehension of dense passages within limited preparation time? I would again like to press some here upon rapidly.
Okay. So the answer for the rapidly is at the end of the slide. The only way to improve rapidly is to write every day, get it evaluated, and like incorporate the comments, the feedback in performing better. To be honest, towards the since I had only 2 months of time, towards the last week, I was writing like 5 case studies every day. That the same 15 minutes time slot, like how I would write in the last on the final day of the exam. I was also writing essay, so that's the only way to improve rapidly. Okay. Having said that, the essay for essay, read the topic well, and once you picked, I think you'll have a choice, right? So once you pick that, spend the first 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes to plan the essay, make a rough structure. How to do this is to first identify the core issue. What's the essay about? What are they asking exactly? Because you can't write something. For instance, if the essay is on, I think when I wrote it was on climate financing or climate justice. You can't write just about greenhouse gases, right? Like that can't be the full essay. So identify what exactly they're asking, decide your stance, what you want to tell in this essay, and then break it down into subtopics. Uh, how do you do that? The essay itself will have so many subtopics merged into one big topic. So you pick out what are the keywords from the essay, then make out different elements, dimensions like political, economy, social, ethical, legal angles, different perspectives for like each of the subtopics, and try to find some current affairs to link with it. For instance, if it is on climate justice, COP30 is recently happened, you can include that, and then one or two counterpoints, and then finally address how your like stance to goes, and then conclude. Okay, so introduction, core issue, plus the context. Like for instance, recently COP30 held, and this becomes pertinent. Conclusion is a way forward and tied with the introduction. So
Perfect then. Very well said. I presume this is the last slide. Yes. Just a second, I'll get back to the call. How do I stop presenting this? So, yes, unfortunately, this was the end of this session. But yes, as already mentioned, students who are watching this enrolled already in our NLSAT 2026 batch. Aparajitha will be joining us and taking your sessions for the remainder of the period left, and this is only NLSAT 2026 countdown for the people of the batch. I know it is a very enlightening or a very happy thing for a lot of us. I hope, Aparajitha, you are also excited to see the other side of this time, the students. So thank you so much for joining in this session throughout your busy schedule. We'll be again irritating you, and this time a lot of our students too will. So yes.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to meet you all on the other side of the preparation. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the session. And yes, as we always say, and this time I would like Aparajitha to say it, the aim to be part.
Okay.
Yeah, aim to be.
Aim to be. Yeah. Okay, aim to be.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's meet again soon. Thank you.
Are you preparing for 3-year LLB entrance exams but feeling overwhelmed and unsure where to start? Do you struggle with finding the right resources, guidance, and clarity, all in one place? Tired of institutions selling just mock tests or rebranding old materials meant for other exams and charging a fortune for it? Introducing LawFriend, your one-stop solution for 3-year LLB entrance exams. LawFriend brings you cutting-edge tools to supercharge your preparation. With our exams portal, you can participate in live All India tests and instantly see your rank, giving you real-time insights into your performance. Practice questions on individual topics, sharpen your skills, and get exam ready with confidence. LawFriend, aim to be.